The public is active here in week 3 of the NFL. In fact, we have 14 games on the board for this Sunday, September the 21st, and I'm going to give you 7 of those 14 games free right here in this video. The most public sides for week 3 in the NFL coming up right here, right now. Hi, this is Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, right back here on WagerTalk TV, and public usually gets pretty active around weeks 3 and 4. We've talked about this in the past because they start thinking things look easy after over and under reactions from the first couple weeks, and we often step in with some very profitable angles here in week 3. And not a surprise which teams made the public list this week. We do have 5 official public plays for Sunday, and then I'm going to give you 2 additional leans that were just a bit outside from making the official list. So let's run down 7 of these 14 games on Sunday. Going to go down in start time order. All of these are pretty public. I'd say they're all equal. So we'll start with the 5 public plays this week. The 1 o'clock Eastern games, the Indianapolis Colts minus 4.5 at Tennessee. And as I often say in the video, it's not necessarily a team's playing on a team, it's also playing against a team. Although I think in this case it could be a little bit of both. The Colts were definitely not a public team probably coming into the season a couple weeks ago, but they've looked very good. Blew out the Miami Dolphins in week 1, and then of course a 29-28 win as a slight home dog against Denver last week. And what's really jumped out has been the offense. Explosive offensively, over 300 yards rushing, over 550 yards passing in the 2 games. No turnovers, 4 forced. And as you know, turnovers usually decide NFL games, so we'll see if that fortune continues. But it's also a case where nobody wants to back Tennessee. They had the worst record in the league last year, but as I pointed out in my week 1 video when the public faded Tennessee and the Broncos barely missed covering. By the way, Tennessee did cover week 1 by about a half a point as a fade the public selection. That last year's Tennessee Titan defense was a real anomaly. There was a team that gave up the 3rd most points in the NFL, bottom 3 in points allowed, but top 3 in fewest yards allowed per game. Could there be some upside there? Well, the defense has been pretty mediocre so far, giving up 150 rushing yards per game against the Broncos and Rams. So we'll see if they can slow down that Colts offense. But I do think if you play this game, you probably want to take the contrarian call with the Tennessee Titans here and the inflated line. And something I'm going to do in this video as well is look at the adjustments that have been made from the week 1 number, or from the preseason summer numbers to now the week 3 numbers. And it's only been a couple weeks, so sometimes we see pretty big reactions. Right now, Tennessee is a 4.5 point home dog. If you'd bet this game a few weeks ago during the summer, which is less than 3 weeks ago, right? Because there's only been 3 weeks in the regular season. Tennessee was a 1.5 point favorite this summer. So it's gone from 1.5 to now 4.5 dog in just 2 games. I think it's a little bit of an overreaction. Take a look for the Tennessee Titans. I think Cam Ward will play a little bit better at home as well. This also could be a bit of a flat spot for the Colts after the red hot start. That's at 1 Eastern. All right, another public play at 1 o'clock Eastern, and not a surprise here, the Green Bay Packers minus 8 at the Cleveland Browns. Now, this line is anywhere from 7.5 to 8.5. We'll say 8. I expect it to climb higher near kickoff. Be surprised if it drops down to that key number 7, maybe at a spot or 2. But once again, you're going to have to lay more than a touchdown with the Packers here. On the surface, they look like a pretty good teaser play, right? Getting them down to 1.5, 2, straight up situation. Also, survivor picks. I'm sure Green Bay will be a big survivor pick. Caution, red flag alert. I like the Browns in this game. Would not be shocked to see them win it outright. And this is definitely a fade the public scenario that makes a lot of sense in my opinion. No, I don't trust Cleveland. Very ugly offensively. They've only scored 16 and 17 points their first 2 games. The aging Joe Flacco, what's he, over 40 now, has not been the answer here for Cleveland. We'll see how much longer he stays under center. 65 QB rating last week against the Ravens, only a 75 against the Bengals. But he's still a veteran quarterback. This is a home game. If he can prevent the interceptions, he's had 3 picks in 2 games, which is unlike Flacco. Usually okay taking care of the ball. This could be a spot in which Green Bay comes in extremely flat. Just look at the scheduling setup here. They beat their division rival, the Detroit Lions, in week 1. And yes, we had a strong best bet on the Packers. I like Green Bay this season. That was a client best bet in week 1. And then, of course, we gave you the Packers and the under in the Thursday Night Prime video last week here, free on WagerTalk TV. So I'm a perfect 2-0 picking Packer games this year, but we're going to fade them here this week for the first time this season in week 3. Huge letdown spot. The divisional win against the Lions, and then that primetime win against the Commanders, not my Washington Commanders, last Thursday night. And then look who they play next week. Not only at Dallas, but it's the Sunday night national TV game. And now they're more than a touchdown road favorite in a non-conference game. Huge sandwich spot here, letdown spot, whatever you want to call it. I think the Browns can hang here, and I'd be very careful using the Packers and teasers or even survivor picks for that reason. I would fade the public here at the Cleveland Browns +8 at 1 o'clock Eastern. All right, next game on the board at 1 o'clock Eastern is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus the 6.5, another public side here for this Sunday. The look-ahead line, by the way, this summer for Green Bay was about 6.5, so it's a little bit higher, but it's over that key number of 7, and that's the same situation here with the Tampa game, but this line is actually a little bit lower. The look-ahead line this summer was 7.5, now it's only 6.5, and the Jets are without their starting quarterback. Justin Fields is out after suffering a concussion. Veteran Tyrod Taylor from Hampton, Virginia Tech Hokie, will be under center. And Taylor actually is serviceable. He might be better than Fields. Last week, limited action against the Bills, 106 QB rating. Last year with the Jets, limited action as well, a 126 rating, but 4 touchdowns, no picks the last 2 seasons with the Jets. But then you look, last time he got a lot of action was really in 2023 with the New York Giants. 89 QB rating, over 1,300 yards thrown. This is the guy that historically takes care of the ball. Doesn't throw a ton of picks. He's been playing since 2011 with the Ravens. He has a 69-29 touchdown interception ratio. And of course, with the Buffalo Bills from 2015 to 17, those 3 seasons is when he was in his prime, and he threw for over 8,700 yards. And he threw for, I believe, 51 touchdowns with only 16 interceptions. QB ratings over 89 all 3 seasons. Career QB rating of exactly 89.0. So Taylor's a capable backup here, and there could be some life with the Jets. Maybe this is that catalyst that they need to get back on track. Once again, 0-2 start. They did cover against Pittsburgh. Were flat last week against Buffalo. Lost their quarterback. And now, meanwhile, the Buccaneers, back-to-back nail-biter wins. We had a tough beat with the Falcons. We had a best bet on Atlanta in week 1. Felt like we were on the right side there as they outgained Atlanta. Could have won that, or outgained Tampa, rather, in that game. And definitely could have won. And then last week, 20-19 narrow win for Tampa Bay as a dog. And they also, looky here, have the Super Bowl champ Eagles at home next week. Now they have a non-conference game once again. Tampa Bay, once again, minus the 6.5, a very public play. But I think there is some reasons to like the Jets in this one. Some contrarian calls indeed. All right, let's go to the 2 late afternoon games, and I'll get to those 2 bonus plays as well for you. Both these go after 4 o'clock Eastern. LA Chargers, minus the 2.5 to 3. Now, LA looks like they're going to be minus 3 in most spots. There's still some 2.5s out there at juiced, but I'm going to say minus 3 here, and that makes a big difference. You know, I did a standalone video for this game earlier this week. It's here, a 2-for-1 video, actually. I did both the Saints Seahawks game with this Bronco Charger game the other day. It's right here on WagerTalk TV, so check that out afterwards for a deep dive. And I do like the Chargers in this game, and I mentioned in the video that I thought the Chargers would be one of the more public plays this week, but we don't always just blindly fade the public. We talk about this every week. It's a filter. It's one of the many aspects I use. Over 30 filters I use every week for handicapping the NFL. Public is one of them. I don't like to be on the public side. Sometimes that keeps me off a game. That might be the case here, but also sometimes gets me on a game if it's a tiebreaker. In this spot here, I would be with the public on the LA Chargers for a couple of reasons. First of all, at minus 2.5, when I did that video earlier this week, I thought there was a little bit more value. At minus 3 or less, still lean Chargers, but obviously some of that value is gone. There's about an 8 to 9% chance Chargers win this game by exactly 3 points. But I don't feel like they fully have priced in the LA Chargers' abilities this season. The look-ahead line this summer was 1.5, so it's only a little bit inflated. And I don't know if I trust Bo Nix on the road as a dog. You know, last year Nix was 8-0 as a favorite. He went 1-0 straight up, but didn't necessarily cover in week 1 against the Titans. And then he lost outright as a slight road favorite. They were -1 in some spots at Indianapolis. But still, he was weaker as a dog last year. He beat up on bad teams, struggled against good teams. And I do think the Chargers are a good team. Now, yes, on the surface, the scheduling spot's a little bit concerning because they had to go down to Brazil, beat the rival Chiefs, and then come back and play a Monday night road game in Las Vegas last week. Have to go to the Giants next week cross-country. But this is still their first true home game. They were the home team in Brazil. I don't count that. And it's still a divisional game. So I think they'll be focused. Maybe that flat spot is next week if they win against the Giants. So I would lean Chargers here, -3 or less. Would have liked it better, though, at -2.5. All right, your 5th public play this week, also on the late card at 4:25 Eastern, is the Dallas Cowboys at the Chicago Bears. And this is another situation where the line's been changed quite a bit from preseason number. Chicago this summer was going to be a 3-point favorite. Now they're a 1.5-point home dog. So we are getting some value now with the Bears at this point based on line value from just a few weeks ago. Question is, though, do we trust Chicago? New staff, new coaches, and they have gotten off to a slow start, to say the least. Yes, they led the majority of the game against the Vikings and blew that one, but then we saw how terrible Minnesota looked last Sunday night at home. Falcons running back Robinson had more rushing yards than the Vikings had total offensive yards. So Chicago's loss to Minnesota, even though they held them to 250 yards in Week 1, not as impressive now in hindsight. And they got blown out by the Lions. Of course, Detroit was in a very focused spot last week, though, after being beat by the Packers in Week 1. So we'll see what the Bears have here if the new coaching staff can turn things around. Sometimes it takes 3 to 4 weeks before you can really start trusting these ugly dogs. But then again, it's not a great spot for Dallas. The narrow Thursday night loss to the Eagles, and then a narrow win, high-scoring shootout against the Giants last week, 40-37. And then, as I mentioned earlier, they have the Sunday night look-ahead home game against the Packers next week. So not a great scheduling spot for Dallas, but the public still likes them nonetheless. Over looks pretty obvious, almost looks too obvious in this game, right? The Bears' offense, I guess, would be the concern there. But Dallas has been very good offensively. Until that rain delay, they couldn't stop the Eagles, but they were also moving the ball at will. Then last week, they moved the ball at will against the Giants, but they made the Giants' offense look great, had over 400 passing yards allowed, and of course, the Commanders shut them down in Week 1. So I do think the Bears will have some offensive life here. Total opened around 46. It's now up to 50. 51 is the key number, so I do like the over at 50, although it seems a little bit obvious. All right, those are your 5 official public sides here for Week 3 in the NFL on Sunday, September the 21st. Once again, down in schedule order, Colts minus 4.5, Packers minus 8, Buccaneers minus 6.5, Chargers minus 3, and Cowboys minus 1.5. All right, as I always do with all my videos, I try to give you as much information as possible. So I'm going to give you 2 additional public leans. These were just a bit outside from being official public plays. The public consensus is still leaning this way, so use these once again as filters for your own handicapping. At 1 o'clock Eastern, the public likes the Falcons minus 5.5 at the Panthers. Another game in which we've seen a pretty drastic line. This might be the biggest one we've seen of all the games we talked about. This summer, Carolina was going to be a 1.5-point home favorite. Everyone thought maybe they'd be a little bit better now with Bryce Young a little bit more mature, but they've gotten off to a tough start, to say the least. Now they're a 5.5-point home dog. So once again, Carolina just a few weeks ago projected to be a 1.5-point favorite, now a 5.5-point dog. Offense has been pretty mediocre. They did have over 300 passing yards at Arizona last week. And I will point this out. We had a best bet on the Panthers last week, and what were they, down 27-3, came back to cover. A lot of people might think that was a backdoor cover, but they actually outgained them in yards, outthrew them by over 100 yards, outgained them by about 50 total yards, had a 2-1 turnover deficit. In fact, that's been the problem. 5 turnovers and only 2 forced in the first 2 games. Meanwhile, the Falcons, 1 total turnover in 2 games, 4 forced, and they're coming off the big Sunday night game against the Vikings on the road last week after that narrow, heartbreaking loss to the Bucs. This could be a little bit of a flat spot on the road. Even though it's a divisional game, I do lean towards Carolina in this one, and we're definitely getting some adjusted line value with the Panthers at the plus 5.5. I would fade the public there. And the final lean I'll give you is also one which I would fade, the Seattle Seahawks minus 7.5. And as I mentioned earlier, I did a deep dive breakdown in this game along with that Bronco Charger game, a 2-for-1 free play video here on WagerTalk TV. And by the way, click subscribe, and when you click that bell as well, you'll get an instant alert so you'll know when these videos are posted. That 2-for-1 video was posted at midnight going into Friday morning, and then this Fade the Public video goes up on Saturdays. So you'll get an instant alert. You can be the first to watch and get this actionable info. But as I mentioned in that earlier video this week, I do lean towards the Saints plus 7.5, and there's a few reasons why. First of all, a little bit of adjusted line value, nothing crazy here, but the look-ahead line this summer was 6.5. Now it's 7.5. But I think the Saints are one of those teams, although they're projected to be one of the worst, if not the worst teams in the NFL this year, and they're living up to it. They're off to a lackluster 0-2 straight up in an ATS start. But if you look closer, even though they haven't covered either loss, they only lost by 7 and 5 points. They kept both games tight against Arizona and San Francisco, and I think that might be their mantra this year. Their mode is to keep games within a touchdown, because Spencer Rattler, while he's not great, doesn't make a lot of mistakes. In fact, the Saints only have 1 turnover all season. Meanwhile, the Seahawks have 4 turnovers. They force 4, but they also have 4. Been a little bit sloppy at times. And they're coming off a win against Pittsburgh as a road dog last week. And then they have a look-ahead divisional game at Arizona next Thursday night. In just 3 days of travel and rest, they have to play next Thursday on the short week. This looks like a sandwich spot for the Seahawks. And the fact that the Saints are keeping games close, I think we can trust them maybe here in this role. Fade the public with this one. I would lean towards the Saints plus 7.5. Hey, there you go. The 7 most public sides for this Sunday. And I disagree with most of them. How do you feel with these 7 consensus plays? Fade them or play them? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hey, include some reasoning and some analysis if you have time. Let's learn and earn and win together here on WagerTalk TV. And don't forget, if you want a bonus free play, I put my top opinion each and every day on my page for free for everybody at wagertalk.com. Now, yes, it's my top opinion because my personal best bets are saved for my paid subscribers. That's only fair. But think of it this way. I maybe average 2 to 3 best bets per day in all sports, which means that last cut is a pretty strong opinion still. I put it up for free for everyone. So go get that bonus free play right now on my page, Steve Merril, wagertalk.com. And while you're there, check out some special offers right now. Get a 7-day best bet package for just $69 with promo code SM69. That's 7 days and nights of college and pro football and Major League Baseball. You choose when you want to start. You can start Sunday and go through next Saturday. You can start this Monday, go through next Sunday. You can start Saturday night, go through next Friday night. You determine when you want to start the 7-day, but make sure you use promo code SM69 for an instant 30% discount. You choose the 1 week, the 7 days, $99 package, but at checkout, if you use SM69, you get it for just $69. That's college and pro football plus baseball. Don't sleep on baseball. Finished last year on a 57-28 winning run through the World Series. We have over a month remaining still. Baseball and football for 7 days for just $69 with promo code SM69. Or if you're ready to take a long-term consistent investment approach, the 1-year all-access pass is still available with that instant $811 discount when you use promo code SM365. If you've been thinking about treating sports betting as a true investment, this is the package for you. You get every college and pro football best bet for the rest of this season through the start of next September, the rest of baseball, basically all of next year's baseball, and then the complete college and pro basketball seasons because they start in about a month. It's a true 365 all-access pass and an instant $811 discount off the normal rate when you use promo code SM365 at checkout. That gets it down to $3 a day, about $1 a play for every football, baseball, basketball, college, and pro best bet for the next 365 days and nights. Now, look, it doesn't matter if you do a 1 day, a 1 week, a 1 month, a 1 year. Every client gets the exact same plays. They're the exact same plays I am personally using each day. It's been that way since I started over 29 years ago in August of 1996, and it remains that way today. If I'm using a game, I send it out to all my clients with detailed written analysis so we can learn and earn and win together. Also, that last cut, of course, goes up as a bonus free play on my page. So even if you're still building your bankroll, go get the free play, but also highly recommend considering one of those best bet packages, especially with the promo codes that are available. And by the way, the promo codes are listed on the page as well, so you don't have to memorize them. Steve Merril, wagertalk.com, and hey, get there quicker with shortcut wt.buzz/SM. On the way out, don't forget to follow me on social media at Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L, Merril, at Steve Merril on X and Instagram. And if you're liking these free play videos, all I ask is a thumbs up, like, and include a positive comment below. But just a thumbs up, like is all I ask. That takes 2 seconds. Boom. If you haven't already clicked it, do it on the way out here. Much appreciated. That helps keep this content free and plentiful on WagerTalk TV. And drop your thoughts below. Not only these games you agree or disagree, what other NFL plays do you like this weekend? Maybe some under-the-radar player props as well. I do truly read the comments, and I reply back. Love the support here on WagerTalk TV. Let's win together. And be sure to stay tuned. I've got your Sunday night preview for the Chiefs game against the Giants, and also your Monday night preview for the Lions-Ravens. So I gave you 7 games here in this video, and I'm also giving you the Sunday and Monday night games for free. That's 2 more. So that's 9 of the 15 games for Sunday and Monday. Hey, look, if that's not a thumbs up, like, I don't know what is. Love the support. Comment away. Subscribe. Click that bell. And stay tuned here to WagerTalk TV because, as I just said, there's more free play videos coming up next.